Here is part 2 of the section 4.3 exercises. This part will be going over questions 6 through 10, and then the question that I'm going over will always be up here on the top left. So we saw in question 5 from the last video that what they want you to do in these tables is they want you to plug in these values of x into this expression and then put the solution of that expression into this little box right here. So for example, this first one, for if the value of x is -5 and then the expression is -6 times x, we're going to be doing -6 times -5, which equals a +30, and that's the value that we're going to plug into this little box. And then you're going to do that for -4, -3, -2, and -1. And then furthermore, you're going to take this expression, -6x is greater than 18, and you're going to solve that out for x and place the solution into this little box because it wants the solution of the inequality. So if this is -6 times x, and then the 6 is on the top, I want to get a 6 on the bottom, which means I'm going to divide both sides by not 6, but -6. And because we're dividing by a negative number, I want you to remember you got to flip this little sign as well. That's the only real exception here with solving these guys out, is that when it's divided or multiplied, not added or subtracted, just divided or multiplied by a negative number, you're going to need to flip that sign. And then over here on the right side, we're going to get a -3. So that's the way that you are solving these problems out. And then you're going to put this solution into the little box. Exercise 7, here is the same thing, except for instead of being multiplication like we saw in question 5 and 6, our expression this time is x divided by -5. But it's still the same concept. You're still going to take this value of x, -45, and you're going to substitute that in for x, which is going to give you -45 over 5 negative, which is going to give you a +9 because this is a division problem. And so because this is a division problem, this is x divided by -5 is greater than or equal to 7. Because this is a division problem, that means that the -5 is on the bottom, so we want to have why does that always happen when I'm recording videos? So we want to have a -5 up top. So in order to get that -5, we're going to multiply by -5. Not -5 over x, just the -5, because we don't want to get rid of that x. If we had x over x, any number over any number is going to be 1. So that's why we don't do the x. Instead, this is -5 over 1. And we're going to multiply the -5 on the same thing on the right side, which is going to give me -5x over -5 is greater than or equal to, oh, made a mistake. Because we multiplied by a negative number, we're going to make that a less than or equal to -35. And then this is going to become just x is less than or equal to -35. So just keep, it's very, very easy to mess up that sign. Just make sure that you are checking that you're flipping the sign. If you feel like you did everything right, you multiplied correctly, used the right kind of operation, then it might just be the sign that you need to fix. As you saw, we kind of tend to do these things a little fast, and so it's easy to forget to check for that. Okay, exercises 8 and 9, those have this kind of odd format where the value of x that you're plugging into the expression is a fraction. So this first value of x, that one you can do pretty quickly. If this is x over -1 and the value of x is equal to -1, then this is going to be -1 over -1. But what if the value of x is a fraction, as we see up here with this -4 over 5? Well, if the value of x is a fraction, here's what you do. So we're taking this fraction, x equals -4 over 5, and we're going to plug that into this x over here. What you do is you take the top number, and the top number goes up top into the x, so that's going to be -4. And then the bottom number goes on the bottom, so this is going to be 5, and then you multiply it by the original number that was there, that -1. So we just plugged in that fraction, -4 over 5, and then you multiply out the bottom number, so this is going to give you -4 over -5, which equals a +4 over 5, because the negatives will cancel out. So just keep an eye on that. I know it's a little odd, but definitely doable. And then you just practice multiplying fractions out, so please Don't freak out, just use those skills when you're solving this out, because since this is x divided by -1, you're going to be multiplying by something, and then you're going to have to multiply it to this fraction. So this first one should be pretty straightforward, but when you do this next one on exercise 9, when you solve that one out, and notice this one has a positive number, so we're not going to be flipping the sign. When you solve this inequality out, you're going to need to multiply that 1/2 by a certain number, and that means that you're just going to multiply straight across. You're going to multiply fractions straight across, and then check to see if you can simplify. Don't let it freak you out. And then lastly, we move on to exercise 10, which is something we're more familiar with. So we've done a lot of these in 4.1 and 4.2. We've got 2n is greater than 20. We're going to be solving out for 2n is greater than 20. Because the n has a 2 is being multiplied by 2, we want to put a 2 underneath it, which is what kind of operation? And then once you do that to both sides, check, do I need to flip the sign? And if you don't, or you do, after you do that, put the solution here. Make sure to include the n, the symbol, and a number, and then graph it out using your previous knowledge from open circle, closed circle, left or right.